Hello and welcome back to the Film School Chronicle, your wire right to the heart of the Brisbane Film School scene. I am your host, Carmelo Keating, and joining me again today is Alessandro. How are you this morning, Alessandro?
Yeah, I'm good, Carmelo.
Yeah, that's good. I'm going to call you Sandro here on in for the show because that's normal.
That's normal.
Joining us today is cinematographer, camera operator, editor, director, just everyman, jack of all trades, filmmaker.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. But Geordie Lillis, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks, guys. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, doing good.
Yeah, very
I
keen.
love the little set that you've got built up here.
Oh,
This
cheers.
yeah, you've definitely never seen a Star Wars movie in your life, I can tell.
No, never.
Is Star Wars the one with the little wizard boy? Is that
The little
okay.
wizard boy that
Yeah.
grows up and says that his sister loves him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Nah, very cool, very cool. Anyway, so Geordie, tell us and tell the audience just a little bit about yourself. You've had a pretty awesome career thus far into your career, so there's lots to tell. But just a little spiel about you.
Little spiel about me. It's a bit of a hectic journey, to be honest. I don't really have an interest in movies, and so how I ended up working in movies and in the film industry in general is kind of a little bit whack. But to give you a long story short, just from a small rural community, about 3.5 hours west of Brisbane, actually fairly close to where you originated from, just down the road, just a cheeky little 2-hour drive down the road. My hometown, I guess you would call it. I'm from a small farm. My hometown's called Quinn, which is just down the road from Moola, which is just down the road from Killenbun, which is just down the road from Dalby, is probably the closest landmark.
Dalby's just near Chinchilla where I'm from. Just had to chuck that in there. Anyway, yeah.
So grew up there my whole life. The way I kind of fell into cameras was my old man won a camera at school one day. He's a school teacher.
Right.
Won a camera out of a competition and brought it home, and one thing leads to another. And when you're out on the farm and you love riding motorbikes, then you love to make videos of yourself riding motorbikes. And I slowly progressed and realized that the better I could make myself look at riding a motorbike, then the better I could make other people look at riding motorbikes as well. So over the course of my career, I guess driven by my hobbies and my passions, I've kind of just furthered my interests, and the type of work that I'm doing now is probably a reflection of what I started doing when I was a kid, which is just screwing around with a camera and making cool motorbike videos.
Yeah.
So I left Dalby in 2013 as I graduated high school out there. Came to Griffith Film School down at South Bank in Brisbane, which everyone here joining us, even the 27 production assistants that we've got outside here, they're all from Griffith as well. 27? 28, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, missing one down
In
the
the
back.
back.
And personally, this was probably the most pivotal decision in my life that I had going to film school. Growing up out in Dalby, no one is anything really but a farmer or an electrician or a plumber or creative roles just don't really exist out west, as you'd be more than familiar with. And so I definitely didn't have a lot of encouragement from my parents, but it was just something that my teachers saw that I was good at, is making these little clips on the weekends. And ended up at Griffith. And then I guess the roller coaster of film kind of just hit me, and I worked really hard in my first year, was lucky enough to get on my first feature film at the end of first year, which we'll probably delve into in a minute. And I guess my claim to fame while I was at uni is I was able to work my way up and start working on big features like Thor Ragnarok and Pacific Rim before I'd even graduated. So I'd had a really, successful start in a sense to my uni career.
I think we might just, go back in time a bit and just go through the rap sheet and get right into it. So, Bullets for the Dead. So if you go to Griffith Film School, you will have seen the poster for Bullets for the Dead up in SOH there. It's a, that sort of that cowboy western zombie film that you always walk past and you think, oh, that looks cool. I wonder what that is. Well, now we get to actually find out. So, Geordie, what can you tell us about Bullets for the Dead?
Look, there's a lot of things I could tell you about Bullets for the Dead. There was a really interesting project that Griffith undertook. It was definitely a challenge for both the professional crew and the students involved in the project. Essentially, the idea was, I think we had $2 million that was either crowdfunded or raised by the university or Screen Queensland, however it came to be. And the idea was that the funding existed so that industry professionals could train film students how to actually make movies instead of just short films at uni.
Right.
And so they had a couple of the, I guess you'd say, the leading cinematographers out of film school at that time attending, and then a couple of the camera assistants, and then they just filled all the other departments with as many junior roles as possible.
Yeah.
All led by DOPs and directors and externals from the actual industry. So it was a little bit of a hodgepodge mismatch of crew kind of going anywhere. So the long story short, I just kind of cruised through my first year of uni, and this is, Bullets for the Dead happened in like December of 2014, so at the very end of my first year of uni. Cruised through my first year at uni. Didn't really do anything outside of my class subjects, and thus I'd never really gotten any opportunities outside of my class subjects. Bullets for the Dead was interesting because I was sitting in a one of my lectures. I think it was digital storytelling back in first year, and sitting next to me was a girl doing her master's class, Megan. And she was like, "Oh, hey, I'm working on this short film next week. Do you mind if, you come and help out as a camera assistant?" Anyway, lo and behold, I went and helped out as a camera assistant, and it turns out that when you're born on a farm and everyone's car breaks down and you've got to run 300 kilometers worth of extension cables across a property, and I was just generally a good hand. The camera assistant on that short film was just about to go and work on this feature film, Bullets for the Dead. And so I'd helped him out. His name was Sam Chatterjee. And Sam, if you're watching this, you're a bloody legend. And I don't know if he's back in the States now. He's a cinematographer now. Incredible guy. You definitely should meet him. So Sam kind of took me under his wing and took me onto this film, Bullets for the Dead. To give you a 60-second brief summary of Bullets for the Dead, I started as the video split runner. So I'm literally just plugging a cable from the camera into a screen. By the second week, I was a second camera assistant for the C camera. By the third week, I was the second camera assistant for a B camera. And by the fourth week, I was focus pulling the C camera. By the fifth week, I was shooting with the C camera. Right. And by the end of the production, I was the only DOP left to film all the pickups. Oh my gosh. So there was a little bit of people leaving, people coming, people getting fired. It was I don't know, it was an interesting atmosphere, and it was just a really hard dynamic having so many juniors and so many senior professionals trying to work with each other and actually hit a budget, because there'd be so many students which would overperform, but then couldn't, I guess, work collaboratively enough with the people that have been in the industry for ages, and the people that have been in the industry for ages are struggling to just actually teach everyone enough to keep the production on schedule. So it was a mess. It come out way better than I thought it was going to. And it's definitely a Griffith cult classic. I don't know where it's sitting in the world at the moment, but you can definitely buy it on DVD somewhere. So if you get a copy of Bullets for the Dead, bloody sit down, enjoy the movie, and when you watch the train sequence, just know that I sloshed around in blood for weeks.
Very nice. So just, for the sake of, talking to film students about that struggle with them, struggling to collaborate with industry people, what do you think in particular it was about that, relationship that made it difficult?
Look, in hindsight now, I could just say, there wasn't enough money and there wasn't enough skilled labor. Because there were a fair few... it's really hard. Where I stand on this is when you're in, especially your first and second years of film school, you need to take every opportunity that you can get, and you need to get your mitts right into any sort of work. And even if it's I don't care if it's you're working on Pirates of the Caribbean or you're working on Bob and Fred's cooking show in the backyard that has 1 subscriber.
Yep.
Every job that you do, you learn something more from that job. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing that you've learned either not to do something or you've learned what works. And if you just take literally every one of those opportunities that come along, and Bullets for the Dead was a massive opportunity for me because I just got to see instantly out of first year how like 100-person crew tries to work together.
Yeah.
And I could see the things that worked and I could see the things that didn't work. And taking that knowledge and then applying it to things that I did myself or my career further was the most valuable thing that I could have gotten out of that experience. And the cherry on top is that I moved up through the ranks so much because people were shuffling around in their positions, is I got in the space of like 2 or 3 months more opportunity than I guess some students at film school would have gotten in their whole 3 years of film school. Like I had both of the ARRI Alexa kits in my car for like 3 months, and you'd take the kits home and you'd film with them at night after you'd wrapped it set, and then you'd bring all your mates over and you'd all play with them. And then all of those friends that I actually would have come over after work, well, I've got these 2 ARRI kits in first year.
Yeah.
We're all the camera assistants and the shooters that are still working now. Like it's all those people that just went in that extra little 10% and took every available opportunity they had to learn something and grab that knowledge, and they're doing great now. There's so many people that kind of were there with me in first year that are still with me now. Yeah.
From then you moved on to your next big project while still at uni, was the children's TV show Mako Mermaids.
Yep.
So what were some lessons, I guess, you took into that next experience, and what was it like working on that production?
Okay, so Mako Mermaids was the first long form production that I ever got paid for. Bullets for the Dead was a child labour situation. It was, depending on where you were. Mako Mermaids was a crazy step up for me. Second year of uni, didn't really know anything apart from this 3 months that I'd kind of been working on Bullets for the Dead.
Yep.
And that had virtually no consistency in it. Mako Mermaids was a very structured, well-oiled crew that were shooting 12 pages of script a day and stepping into that world where every T is crossed and every I is dotted perfectly was a massive step up for me. Again, I came in as a video split assistant. The video split operator. And the trajectory of being a video split operator at Griffith in first year is plugging a camera into a monitor. It slowly gets more and more complicated the more, I guess, professional you are as a video split operator. And I was well out of my depth going into that. And the first week and I'll be honest with you, the first week I'd finished up and I just made so many mistakes just constantly, day in, day out. It was like letting the whole production team down, let alone the camera department, making them slower. That Friday I went home just feeling like I've never been such a disappointment in my life, and I was literally just wondering, I don't even think they're going to let me come back on Monday. I was so down in the dumps, and luckily there was this really lovely camera operator that I was working for at the time, as well as Sam Chatterjee, who was a camera assistant. This camera operator was Miranda Porter, and luckily I sat down with her and Sam, and we just kind of had a chat about, it's just kind of rough when you're starting out. Productions move so quickly and there's so much money involved in them that it is so stressful. And so when you're trying to learn on your feet so fast, especially when no one's really got time to train you and you're kind of your own head of department in a sense, and you don't really know what department you're the head of, it's quite challenging. So the biggest thing that I learnt is that world is so much bigger than me, and the more money that a production has, the more layers of stress and organization that essentially you take on, because you have to learn so much so quickly to be able to get there. It's great now with the experience that I have working on projects since then, is that I can go back to a project like Mako and just fit in like a glove, and it'll be like 1 or 2 days of trying to figure out who's who and where's what. Mako was just this strict training ground of this is an actual industry set. And no one really has time for banter and knocking around. We need things done now, and the longer that you are, the more money it's costing production. Wow,
there you go. And so it wasn't long after. Sorry, Sandro, were you?
Oh no.
Hearing it? Okay, sorry. It wasn't long after that, and then so you graduated 2016.
Yep.
And you were straight into Thor Ragnarok.
No, so I was so graduated 26 at the end of 2016.
Yep.
So straight off the back of Mako, luckily I stuck in there and slogged it out. And I feel like by the end of my stint on Mako, which was probably about 4 months, I'd started to get the hang of things, and I'd started lightly like doing a little bit of second AC work and stuff in there, and just really learning the ropes. And again, luckily the camera team that I had there started to take a liking to me by the end of the job, and realized that I wasn't incompetent. I was just really green and just didn't know anything. So that was good. From there I did a couple of short films, music videos, TV commercials, little bits here and there. And Sam Chatterjee, again, who I'll keep bringing up throughout this story, was working on Thor Ragnarok at the time on second unit, I think it was. Right. No, it was like a pre-unit. I don't know, something. Anyway, so Sam, who I'd now been working for nearly a year and a half, as a... when he was focus pulling, I'd second AC, and when he was second ACing, I'd video split, and when he was shooting, I'd focus pull. We built this relationship, and I'd highly recommend, while you're at uni especially, building relationships with people, because Sam was just 1 year ahead of me at uni, how that worked. He was just sucking me up on everything that I did because I helped him out as much as I could. So Sam was working on Ragnarok, and then Sam gets a phone call, and he's been awarded the opportunity to go and study at AFI in Los Angeles. So he's obviously said, I'm going to go and do that. Yep. Hey, Geordie, do you want to work on Thor?
Nice.
And I said, yes. Again, this is another example of just stepping into somewhere where realistically I felt way out of my depths. Luckily, Mako had given me a really good understanding of how a crew worked. Yep. But if we take a crew from Mako, which is maybe like 80 to 100 people on the ground, and you go to Ragnarok and there's like 700 to 800 people on the ground, it is just incredible how much difference that makes when you're walking into like Village Roadshow Studios, and there are so many trucks from so many different departments, all at different sound stages. And it's not like we're just filming at one soundstage. Yeah. There's like a soundstage booked out for stunts. There's a soundstage booked out for like costumes. There's soundstage, like booked out for just, storing the props for the next scene. Like when a big show rolls into a studio like that, it owns the studio. Yeah. Like every stage, every warehouse is just packed for the brim. There's just millions of dollars being spent so rapidly. So a whole other world of stress that you kind of go into to try and perform to a level where at the end of the job they'll hire you back. I think is that you try and get in and you try and absorb as much information as you can. And the best advice that I can give anyone, because everyone will feel that stress stepping onto a bigger set, and if you don't, you're an idiot. The best advice I can get is just say, ask as many questions and don't try and figure stuff out on your own. Like if you walk in and my head of video for Thor especially was this guy named Quinn, and he's a lovely bloke. I was still probably a little bit too green and a little bit timid to like ask him all the time everything. But if I had have just said, oh hey, look, I don't know how to set up this Terra deck with that camera, and just asked it straight up, he'd just tell me once and I'd be able to do it. And that working relationship where these industry professionals live and work in their world, if they've only got to explain something to you once, they'll explain everything to you. And as long as you take that information on board and you keep storing that away and keep learning, they're going to be over the moon with you, because they see that you care and they see that you're trying to learn and trying to help them get better and better as well. But when you just sit there too afraid to ask the questions, then it slows them down, because they don't know that you're struggling with plugging a cable into something or routing a cable to somewhere or building a monitor for someone. And they're just getting more and more frustrated with you, when it can literally be as simple as asking a question. And so biggest and best advice I can ever give is just ask. When you don't know something, don't feel like you're an idiot, because you are an idiot. You just have to ask and then not be an idiot. So I'd say going onto a big film like that, talk to whoever's employing you or the higher above and tell them exactly how much you know. hey, I'm a second year student from Griffith. I don't know a whole lot. I have a general understanding of how the ARRI Alexa works or the Amira works. And if you're honest up front and you just say, look, I'm ready to learn, like you only have to tell me to do something once, 9 times out of 10, you're going to go in there and it'll be fine and you'll have a great time.
Sweet. Yeah. So that was still in third year?
Yeah, that was still in my third year. Yeah. So managing that and uni at the same time was chaos. Shout out to old Dean Jakob at Griffith. He pulled some strings so that I could actually even graduate. And that that was a really challenging time for me because I'd be driving down to the Gold Coast every day. And so I'm driving an hour, working 12 hours, driving an hour home. So an hour, 14-hour day. And then I'd not drive home. I'd drive to Griffith. And then I'd sit in the labs color grading or whatever we had to do for our grad slate for like 4 hours each night. And then I'd get back to mine at about 12, go to sleep, wake up at 4, drive to the Gold Coast. And I did that for 4 months straight. Just an incredibly challenging time in my life, but as far as my career has gone since then, it was the most rewarding experience that I've had because I've been awarded so much knowledge from seeing the big guys play at the big money and watching them work and then scaling all of that back down to the things that I do. That wealth of knowledge has just been invaluable for me.
Wow, I did want to go on to talking about Hype Republic, the production company that you work for, and I guess just wonder about how that came about. Yeah,
so the Hype Republic, for those that don't know, is a production company that's based on the Gold Coast and in Sydney. There's kind of two arms. We've got almost, if you imagine it in a sense, we've got like an action sports industry commercial arm, and then like a music industry, music video, feature film arm, kind of that kind of world. Hype Republic is a really unique company in the video production world because it kind of just specializes in making cool content. Like, I haven't ever done a job where I've like done a interview in a white room and it's some real estate agent talking about like just about everything that I do there is like either me flying to one end of the country filming motorbikes. Like one of the sickest jobs that I just had recently was we went all the way up into the Cape, up in the northern part of Queensland, and we rode Harley Davidsons for 3 days all through the Cape. So that's like an adventure, like I was explaining to you before this podcast started. We were touring around Malaysia with the royal family, flying in their royal helicopters and like getting tours of their like private garages and the palaces and their tigers and stuff. A lot of things that you don't normally see in Quinalo or Chinchilla.
A bit different.
And so that lifestyle and that world that I've kind of gone into now is I guess the ethos of the company at Hype. We don't do boring stuff. Like everything that we do, we try to make it interesting and engaging for cool clients that want to kind of push the boundaries or the limits of what their content can do, and we always just strive to make it better than what someone would imagine it would be. It's like putting that extra like 5% of sauce on top of the end product. So to give you another brief kind of tale on how I ended up there, after I did Thor, biggest movie that biggest movie that I've worked on to date. I went straight to Pacific Rim, the second Pacific Rim movie. That was another interesting challenge. I was working in a different job for a different person at the time. It was going quite fine until about halfway through, and I broke my neck.
Okay.
So not on set, luckily. I was just at the beach with some family and friends one day, and fell off a skimboard, and you just never know how quickly life can change for you all of a sudden. It was just wild. So that happened in the start of 2017. So just after I'd graduated, literally just after I'd graduated, and that was like effectively at the time a career ender. Like I had probably like 4 months of like, if I just stood up I'd nearly pass out. Like I was having like all these medical checks done on me for months and months and months. My eyesight was just never the same. My hearing was never the same. My heart actually came good. More context, story for another time. I did get hit by lightning when I was a kid. And I had a heart arrhythmia up until I broke my neck, and now the heart sorted itself out. So I don't know what happened, but it was just
it fixed itself after that.
Yeah, it fixed itself. It must so anyway, I essentially just crushed my spinal cord really badly, and it caused a bunch of brain damage. And I was just 10 feet tall and bulletproof before that, and now I was down to 65-year-old man that's smoked his whole life. And challenging point in time, and that pretty much zeroed me out of long form work because I just couldn't hack it anymore.
Sorry, Geordie, I'm just going to have to stop you there for a second. We just got to change over cameras. We'll be back in just a second.
And we're back after our brief break. Geordie, where we left off, you were talking about a rather severe spinal injury that sort of got you off long-form content or long-form productions. Where did we leave off? You were talking about how you got struck by lightning.
Oh, yeah.
You hurt your spine.
Where we left off was, I've had a bunch of nerve damage and stuff to my neck, obviously, since I'm from breaking it, which isn't healthy. And the heart thing was I had a heart arrhythmia from about 10 years beforehand where I got struck by lightning riding a motorbike, which is on camera. If you ask for the footage, I can supply it. The broken neck fixed the heart arrhythmia. So,
nice.
Buddy, we're all winning all around. So, one down, another to go. Got 3 lives left out of the 9 I started with. That injury knocked me for 6. And I did a little bit of work for a company in the meantime while I was recovering, where I toured around Queensland just teaching filmmaking in schools because that's all I could really do was just talk. I couldn't lift things, I couldn't carry things, I couldn't run, I couldn't do any more backflips, which was really annoying. So that recovery essentially spanned over about 2 to 3 years. I'm still technically recovering. My eyesight isn't perfect anymore. My hearing isn't perfect anymore. My balance isn't perfect anymore. I'm just generally not as fit, and I can't, just carry on and I guess push myself to 11 all the time. But recovering from that was just a major tax on my body and also financially for me. Yeah. When you can't work really for nearly 3 years, it's definitely a bit of a struggle. And so another word of advice from me is essentially do as much as you can to look after your body, because your body is the earner, especially if you're a camera operator or working on set in a physical role, especially if you're a gaffer or a grip or even a sound recorder. It's the amount of weight that a sound recorder is carrying, or if they're swinging a boom, if they're a boom operator, it's just a very physical job. So look after your body, please. Best advice I could probably give you at all. On that journey of recovery, I did that work for Education Queensland, travelling around the state doing workshops, saved up enough money to buy a van and a red camera. And I essentially lived off of the money that the red camera generated from hire for about a year and a half. Right. And that was the only thing that I could see as a return to keep me in the industry was to just hire this red camera out. And slowly over the next year of my life, I'd go out as a camera assistant with the red camera, and then I'd go out as a shooter with the red camera, and just whatever my body was capable of doing, I was just trying to push myself back into the industry. There are several times at the end of 2018 where I'd started doing jobs and I'd be working for someone that didn't really know that I was recovering from an injury, and I'd just every 15 minutes I'd just be sitting down, breathing, trying not to pass out, really hard times. But luckily this camera was bringing in enough revenue for me to keep living. Might have only been $500 a week, but it was something, and it was survivable. Anyway, that was great. Get into 2019 now. I'm starting to kick a few goals, starting to work a little bit more. Life's going fairly well, and I've managed to save up 10 grand. I'm stoked. After 3 years of not being able to work, to have 10 grand in your bank account. We're sweet. Right. Anyway, I line up this big holiday over in Europe and go on this massive adventure, snowboarding. There's a story about a pineapple, which I'll tell you later. Come back to Australia, and just about as soon as I land back in Australia, COVID hits. Yeah. And so I've spent all my money on this European holiday. COVID is now just knocking my jobs off one by one. And we come all the way through till March 2020.
Is this still pre-hype, or?
This is still pre-hype, yeah. So March 2020 is an interesting time because I've still got this. I've got a bank statement where it has $8 to my name. So pretty trying times. Now, a week after I got my bank statement with $8 in my account, I made a video of me wheeling a wheelie bin across the paddock out in Dolby.
Yeah.
And this bin video, I posted it to there was some page that was doing all these bin videos in COVID. And it was just a video of me wheeling my wheelie bin across paddocks and over a horse and whatever else that I had across the dam, like swimming through the dam with the wheelie bin. You'd probably even be able to put that over as a little video super over while we're talking about this. This video went mega viral, like 30 to 50 million plus views on Facebook in so many different places. It went viral on Instagram, went viral on TikTok. I was doing interviews and recordings for Channel 7. I was out of Channel 7's 2.5 minute year in review. I was 40 seconds of it. I was just getting messages from all over the planet. There was people sending me parodies of this video from New Zealand and Canada, and there was someone, I can't remember, there was another, Scotland. Someone like the New Zealand one was funny because it was just this guy doing exactly the same thing that I did, but there's just sheep everywhere. So anyway, doing that meant that now like 50 million people had seen my face and 50 million people had seen that I could make a video, even though it was just a dumb one at the farm. And so I started this ball rolling of me making content, and just about any like video that I made to go on social media would do like 100,000 views, or like it was like success. And very shortly after I made that, a company out in Dolby from close to where I guess we were raised, messaged me and they're like, hey, we're a local machinery distributor and heavy equipment supplier. We'd just like to do some videos of all our machines and whatnot while we're in COVID lockdown. We can't send salespeople everywhere to sell these things. And so I was like, hey, we can't do anything else. Like, may as well make some videos for these guys. So jumped in there. They're great. The company's called Dom Distribution. They gave me like full creative control. Like, it's like, hey, we need a video of this machine. And if that meant that I'd be like running around it in pink shorts or whatever it is, it was great. We did a really successful one for Max Tracks, which are vehicle recovery tracks. And it's just me and my mate Cullum in these little cardboard cars at the beach going, oh, hey, bro, I hear you bogged, bro. Oh, bogged as. And just random stuff like that. And so that essentially gave me like a creative outlet during COVID when everyone was unable to work. Like, I was able actually to achieve something and start saving again and start kind of making a bit of money. And the more I did that work, and then the more I did my own personal videos that I was posting that were going online, then more and more companies were starting to see my name again. And so the more content I just started producing, and I'd be producing stuff for the Western Downs Regional Council, I'd be doing stuff for the businesses local in Dolby, and then I guess I was just making so much noise over this year and a half of work doing this that eventually the creative director of Hype Republic saw me putting all this stuff out, and he sent me a message and he said, hey, if you'd ever consider working for Hype, just give us a buzz. So I gave him a buzz, and now they're stuck with me. Nah, they're great. So yeah, that's kind of how that arrangement happened. So I moved back to Brisbane in it was just the end of last year. So moved back to Brisbane in 2021, and like now, if I could say anything, it's like 14-year-old me would be so proud that I just get to ride my motorbike and make videos all day, because it's kind of come full circle. Never had an interest in movies. Did movies. They were awesome. You should all do them because they teach you heaps and heaps and heaps. But now I'm kind of in a world where I'm, again, just learning, trying to take on as much knowledge as I can from the people I have working above me. It's just they're some really incredible people that I get to work with every day, and I'm just really fortunate to be in that position now that it's all kind of playing out the way it has.
Yeah. So you've had this experience on feature films, and you've had this experience then during COVID, sort of like in this own sort of realm of freelance. Is Hype Republic sort of a nice in between in terms of like crew size and production?
So Hype Republic's one of those tangible companies that just changes to do everything. We do like some of the smallest music videos to some of the we're producing feature films internally in the company. We've got everything going on from branded commercials for companies like Volvo or Ford or whatever we have to do. And then like what I love is like all the motorbike branded stuff. So like I just love to live in that world because I don't really feel like I'm ever working when I'm doing that. Yeah. And like even this afternoon, I'm about to take off right down to the Gold Coast, and I'll be riding a motorbike with someone hanging off the back with a camera filming more motorbikes. So to answer your question, it's just a changing, adaptable sort at Hype Republic. There's no structure to it. It's is your project cool and can we facilitate it? And then if it gets greenlit, we're on.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've noticed that on their banner, they labeled themselves as a production company, but also post-production company. I was sort of wondering, is there a certain reason they need to make that specification, or?
Yeah, so that is something really interesting about Hype, and it's probably one of the reasons that it is, I guess, self-sustainable in a sense, because when you've got 12 plus employees, if you were just making the videos that Hype brought in through the door, there might be a 2-month gap where, the brands that we partner with usually don't have a lot of work on or something like that. Right. But Hype is also a full-fledged post-production facility. We've got an office at the Gold Coast which has a full color suite, a full sound, like 7.1 or 7.2 room. It's all just like set up for recording and designing, and then multiple edit bays. So we are a post-production company because we can take someone else's post work and absorb it internally and have our employees or freelancers come in and work remotely work in the office. Yep. But then we're a production company, so we'll top to tail everything. We'll do the creative with the brands. It gets approved, built by the producers, sent down through the creative pipeline. Someone like me ends up making it with whatever size crew we require for that project, and then it gets delivered to our post-production. So quite often if it's a sub $50,000 job, like it's kind of, a producer will hand me something, I'll run off and go and make it with, a couple of team members, and then I'll do most of the edit work and then pass it off to like a final editor to just put that like little bit of polish on the end of it, touch up the color, touch up the sound, and make sure that it's good to go. Yeah.
You've mentioned like you're going to the Gold Coast later today. There's a lot of moving around, it seems, required in the job. Is there a mental process you sort of go through that, or does it feel strange not always being, I guess, in one place?
My word of advice for anyone that wants to be a camera operator or content creator or anything in this world which requires a little bit of travel is just suck it up and just do as much as you can, as fast as you can. Because, and I'll use this like, I guess a bit of an analogy is like, if you make one video a week and I make 3 videos a week, like in 3 weeks, I'm going to have 9 videos when you'll have 3, and it compounds. Yeah. Like that, like ratio just gets worse and worse and worse for you over time. Whereas like for me, like I didn't have to take on what I'm doing this afternoon or what I'll do tomorrow, but it's me putting in the groundwork now, which is accelerating my career faster than I guess someone that isn't putting in that time. While you are young and you are capable of putting in 130% effort into everything, put 130% effort into everything.
Do it all.
Yeah, like do it all. Like I don't say that I won't sleep. Like I'll probably still get like 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night, but I'm just packing those days just absolutely full with everything that I can do to advance my career. Whether it's socializing with people that can either help me or further my career in some sense. Whether it's just actually working, editing, producing, shooting, whatever I need to do to be able to actually produce the content that we're working on. And then just researching. The amount of YouTube videos that I watch is just like unending. Like I'm just constantly trying to learn from other people that I would, I guess, aspire to be one day, or draw knowledge from people that have walked a road that I haven't walked just yet. So as a holistic approach to advice for someone leaving uni, going into, I guess, some sort of position in the film industry, whether it's as a content sort of role or as an industry in terms of the long form assistant and whatever department that you desire to go into, is just do as much as you physically can to actually learn and further your career, because there's like 400 people coming out of film schools every year that all want your job, And if you aren't the one that worked the hardest and did the most, then you're not the one that's going to get the phone call that goes, "Hey Geordie, do you want to work on Thor?" That is like, and the reason that like I'm here today is because you guys have gone to the effort of making a podcast outside of your time, outside of uni's time, outside of like your work time, and that's putting in an extra 10% of effort. So I can see already that you guys putting in that extra 10% of effort is going to help you in your career. I definitely think you could make that an extra 20% of effort real quick, and that's where I would be like, get to it. Why isn't there another podcast on the schedule tomorrow? And like, depending on where you are and what you can do, you just need to maximize absolutely every second that you have while you're young, because you really want to be like living, I guess, the life that I'm living now, where it's like all helicopters and gallivanting across the country while you're in your 20s, and not like spending up until you're like 30 or 40 trying to get financially stable and a job that you kind of enjoy. Like, if I worked really hard for the last 5 years, like day in, day out, and while I was at uni, I think I did like 50 something short films for other people outside of my career. You think about how many weeks there are in a year. 50 short films, like at uni, outside of my uni course. Like, that is just so much work all the time. But I'm like 26 now, and I've got everything that I need. I've got a brand new car. I've got a couple of red cameras downstairs. Like, I've got bloody brand new motorbikes. Like, I've got everything that I've needed or could have wanted when I was 14 at 26. And now I've got the next 10 years to just get better and better and better and better at what I do. And hopefully, like, not stress as much about, like, whether I've got $8 in my account or not. Yeah.
For sure.
Sandro, I feel like that's a really good stopping point.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's
I know
brilliant.
It's time we want to get you out of here on time as well, but that's just really brilliant advice actually to leave off on. So thank you so much, Geordie, for your time. This has been a really great.
No, it's
good.
It's
been awesome having you on.
And like I said, I really appreciate the invitation. And the best advice I can give you guys is just get more people on. Yeah. Like, the amount of industry networks that you have to draw on through myself or Lucas is untapped. Like, Lucas has his own podcast. Yeah, you could reach out to Lucas and just be like, "Oh, hey, is there anyone that could come on?" I could think of like 12 people immediately that would have the time to be able to come and help you guys right now. So again, take every opportunity that you're given and just do as much as you can. I have a like ethos of like, you can always make another video. And on a Sunday when you're sitting at home not doing much, you could make a video, and that'd be one more video than someone else has made, and you'll just learn more and more and more as you go. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you again very much, Sandro. Thank you. Co-hosting once again. It's been lovely having you. This has been the Film School Chronicle. Thank you so much for watching, listening, however you've consumed this content, and we'll see you again soon.